My name is Joseph McMoneagle. I was the first one recruited for the Stargate program, which back then was called Gondola-ish at the time. So they assigned me 001. When they recruited the second guy, they realized if you got 002, they'd be telling everybody how many viewers they had. So you got 375 or something. So I was the only one with a 00. So I'm the only one authorized to kill people with my head. Which I'm kidding, of course. After recruitment, I went to SRI and was subjected to the 6 remote viewings because they sent me out there to be familiarized with it. And there was no training back then. We didn't have a clue what remote viewing was. There were a lot of things in my history is the reason why they wanted me in the group. I was actually found by Russell Targan and Hal Putoff in interrogations. They interrogated a bunch of people, and I fell out of that. I think originally they'd gone through hundreds of people looking for talent. So when I got to SRI, I did 6 remote viewings, and out of the 6 remote viewings, 5 of them were first-place matches. Dr. May told me that it was like very easy to match my remote viewings.
So what's a first place matching? What does that mean?
Well, there's 4 places, first place through 4th place. 4th place is no similarity to the target at all. 3rd place, maybe 20% similarities, which is chance. 2nd place is produced some valuable information, but it's not good enough to say it's actually the target. 1st place, no doubt.
Wow.
That's the target. And it's practically drawn. And in fact, I do very detailed drawings, so it was pretty easy to match my stuff. The 2nd place, the one 2nd place I had was, they said they argued about it. It could have been a 1st place. But anyway, it turned out to be the best series of 6 ever done at SRI. So when I got back, my desk was empty, and the general sent me out to join the crowd at Fort Meade.
Very top secret.
It's very sensitive, extremely sensitive.
Yeah.
And of course, almost my entire career in intelligence, I wore civilian clothes anyway. My hard time at Fort Meade, they put me in field grade officers' quarters. So being a warrant officer, you don't even talk about your rank in intelligence,
right?
Because you're dealing with all kinds of people in rank. So all the identity things on the quarters all had rank and position and stuff, except mine. Mine just had my last name. So from that point on, everybody was trying to figure out where I worked and what I did, which nobody was ever successful at.
Did it make it difficult to navigate socially
during
that time when you're because you know some people might be a little begrudging or just a little too curious?
It's horrible. I mean, the social implications of that. And the other thing I did when I went to Fort Meade, I'm old school when it comes to Army. So I put on my dress uniform and white gloves and everything and reported to the general's house, the general that runs the whole base. Because that's what you did in the old days. Yeah. You reported there with a silver engraved card with your name and rank and all that on it. And I knocked on the door and his wife answered. And I saluted her and I handed her my card. And she had the little silver dish. She put it in the silver dish. So the first year I was there, I got invited to Thanksgiving dinner at the general's house. And everybody was looking at me and wondering how that happened. So I and the commanding general got to be really good friends because I could do things like drive equipment that's brand new. They would bring it around for him to see, and like an Abrams tank, maybe. He'd call me on the phone and say, "Can you drive a tank?" Stuff like that. So we were always getting in trouble together, but I really liked him, the first general anyway. We get along great.
Was there more focus on science, or was it more about just testing the limitations of this or even the practical applications of it?
Well, the entire time I was at Meade, it was originally designed to determine whether or not it was a threat, whether or not if the Russians, the Chinese were using it, is this a threat? And they knew nothing about remote viewing. So in a desirable kind of way, what you want to do is train a few people, have them target your own stuff like the Pentagon, the White House, stuff like that, collect some data, and then turn it over to an independent agency to evaluate. And they determine the threat that's there. And if it's a high threat, then you want to get more involved. If it turns out it's really nothing, you just close it off. You end the test period, and it's done. And so originally it was to determine the threat possibilities of remote viewing. The problem is it worked, and it worked really well eventually, which I'll get into in a minute. But it actually worked and made some people really happy because some of the stuff they were getting was stuff they couldn't get any other way. So it just took off on its own. And we became a tasking agency from that point on, which is we knew nothing about it. We just had tasks that came in, and we'd go in a room and talk about what we were perceiving. No, outside of the original protocol that we used, there was really no attempt to investigate scientifically anything. One of the things I got recruited for at SRI International is so they could continue to use me for collection and white rat me in the lab, hit me with things that they were studying, that sort of thing. I was in collection the whole period, so total 40 years of collection, which is a lot. When I retired in 84, I also started my own company. It was Intuitive Intelligence Applications, incorporated in Virginia. And my wife became my tasker and all that stuff. So I would still work blind. And I worked for not a lot, but a few dozen major corporations. I worked for one for over 10 years. They kept coming back and asking for more. That was a mining company. Because they didn't have to core sample to make a decision on buying a piece of land. They just asked me. And then there were other companies that wanted advice on stock, investments, that sort of thing. And then I had the places I went and demonstrated it after they closed the program. I demonstrated it, I don't know how many times, probably 60 plus.
This is like on television?
On television. Right. Sometimes prime time.
And you were the only one to do this, really.
Yeah. There were a couple other people that attempted, and they failed. And I think the reason why is the way I trained myself. Most of the training, we were asked to go into a very quiet room. They put up soundproofing. They closed the windows off. They turned the whole room into a gray room. No bookcases, no extraneous stuff in there to steer you in some direction or another. The thing that did it for me, the colonel came up with this idea that he could make it better if we would tell him what was wrong. So he made a list of 25 things. And after the remote viewing, he would ask us to fill out the list and sign it, or initial it, I think it was. But the list had things like birds chirping outside the building, voices between the walls, too cold, too hot, that sort of stuff. I viewed that immediately as a list for validating my failures. So I went over and I crushed it all up in a ball and put it in the Zen basket. And I said, I'm not filling that stuff out. In fact, I'm going to try to do my remote viewings as much as I can, thinking about them. I may sit at a desk with the phone ringing. Who cares? If I can't learn to do it under any condition, what value would it be to me in the Army? You know, I could be asked to do a remote viewing next to a 155 battery. That's hardly going to not go through the walls. I learned to do it under any condition because I'd sit at my desk, and do it. It was the proper way, in my opinion, to learn it. because you then had to shut everything out and focus, so you're in here more than out here.